When you find yourself getting caught up in the chaos of actually doing work, remember why you're doing it. And that's to create beautiful experiences for yourself and your family and your friends. And just stay aligned with that, because that's what you're going to remember.
Welcome to Direct Selling Shift, an exclusive podcast by DSN. I'm your host, Blake Mallen, and this is where direct selling high performers and experts share their most powerful shifts in mindset, skill set, and strategy to help you accelerate your business and amplify your impact. I challenge you to be present, open your mind, and let the shift begin. Super excited about our guest today. At 34 years old, he was living in a garage. He was paying $200 a month in rent. He had two roommates, $36,000 in credit card debt, and a job that was paying him $14,000 a year. Fast forward over the last 27 years, he has become one of the top networkers in the world. He's an author of a best-selling book. He decided to get his helicopter's license just for fun. He splits his time between two mountain homes, a condo in Vegas, and the beach. And today, having built a team that has helped over hundreds of thousands of customers, he is the number one top distributor in his company, none other than Jordan Adler. Jordan, how you doing, brother?
I'm great. It's good to see you, Blake. Thanks for the invitation to be on with you.
You as well. I was looking back, like we've actually gone back and forth for years, maybe even a decade in conversation.
Probably.
This is the most time we get to spend time together. So I'm super excited to chat today.
One of these days we'll have to actually hang out.
I know, like in person, in proximity. Yeah. Well, I appreciate the time. I know you just got back in town, from Miami? Is that where you were?
New Orleans for a couple of days and then Miami. Yeah, mostly play, a little bit of work.
I love it. Well, I know you definitely live that lifestyle. And I do want to spend today kind of talking about building in the present moment, building in the season we're in. But, for those that listen and maybe don't know your story, let's kind of rewind the clock for a minute. So you were 34 years old. You're in that garage. I mean, $14,000 a year is not a high-paying job, right? For most people, $200 in rent, credit card debt. You're in that state. Rewind the clock for us and just kind of tell us where this journey began. What inspired you to make the jump, and what's inspired you to continue down the path the last 27 years pursuing this industry?
Part of the story, Blake, you might not know. I was at a garage sale back in the early 80s, like 81. And I didn't know what residual income was. I did not know anything about leverage. And I was at a garage sale and I picked up a book for $0.25 by Don Failla, The 10 Napkin Presentations, which is out of print. Mm-hmm. And I read the book. It introduced me to those concepts. I don't even know if you're familiar with the book.
I've never heard it.
Yeah, he's rewritten it a few times. Anyway, he's still alive. He's like probably 90 now. But I read the book and it got me excited about the idea. And I had a college degree. I got a college degree from the University of Illinois. My dad saved his whole life for myself and my two sisters to go to college for a year. And then I moved right out of college. I moved from Chicago to Phoenix, Arizona, because there was a lot of building going on and I had a degree in landscape architecture. But I was kind of wired as an entrepreneur. I started getting involved in different opportunities. And over the course of the next 10 years, I was in 11 network marketing companies, never signed up one person, and never sponsored a single person in my first 10 years, 11 companies, never made a penny. And then I joined my 12th company in 1992, late 92. And in that company, I did extremely well and moved out of the garage and got a couple of nice cars and started traveling the world. So things changed. And, it was like in the mid 90s, my whole life completely transformed as a result of, preparation and timing and everything else. Yeah.
I didn't know that part of your story. So 11 attempts, 11 swings. 11.
Yeah, I'd join a company. I'd be in it for 2 or 3 months. I would get discouraged and I would quit. And I did that over and over and over and over again for 10 years, 11 companies, kept jumping back in when somebody came to me with a good idea, thought this is the one, and then I'd work it for 2 or 3 months and things started going south and I got some negativity and then I would quit and start over again 3 to 6 months later. Did that over.
Jordan, let me ask you this, outside of, the company or a product or a brand. And we all know it's important, right? To find something you're passionate about and you really care about sharing. I'm curious, what changed in you? What was different in Jordan from the Jordan in the first company you got started and it didn't work. And then that number 12, what changed in you to kind of make that timing work?
And that really was it. It was me. It didn't have to do with the compensation plan. It didn't have to do with the product. It did not have to do with the marketplace or, my friends. It had nothing to do with that. It had to do with me. I kept quitting whenever things got tough. And I made a conscious decision after getting around some of the right people and reading certain books and things. I actually made a conscious decision that I was not going to quit on a bad day. Mm-hmm. I stopped quitting when things got tough. And so I had 3 things happen in my 12th company that if the same thing had happened to 1,000 people, they all would have quit. But I just decided that I'm not going to quit anymore. I'm going to learn whatever lessons I need to learn. And as long as the company was still around and anybody was making money, I was going to stick around. And I did. And on my 10th month or so in my 12th company, I made $180. That was the first time I'd ever made money in a network marketing company. Mm-hmm. And then my checks skyrocketed by my 33rd month. So 33 months into the business, working it part-time, with a job. I had a job working at the airline. My income just took off after my 33rd month in the company. I was like, it was like a roller coaster for the first 3 years. And then I hit some critical mass in my business with the right number of people and the right level of excitement and energy, and things just took off.
I think that's an important part to your story, right? Because someone might follow you online or know your story today and not know the time you put in to get to that point. So 33 months, almost 3 years in that 12th company. If you were to add the time before that, like what total amount of time from the first sign up, the first time you enrolled to that 33 months, what total year span average was that?
15 years. So from the age of 21 years old to the age of 36 years old, right around in that, 21 years old to 36 years old, I didn't make any money. And then I started, between 36 years old and now I'm 65, I've been living a really good life, as you know.
That's so important. Yeah, 15 years. It's like we're in a time right now where if it doesn't work for someone in 15 minutes, they give up, right? And you 15 years before you began the journey you're on right now.
In today's world, if somebody doesn't make I made $180 on my 10th month of my 12th company. That was the first time I ever made anything in a company. And today people have the patience of about, 2 weeks to 30 days, and that's about it. If they're not making money within 30 days, they're out, But I was like, I had a little bit, once I decided that I was going to stop quitting, because quitting doesn't work. There's never been a book written called How to Quit Your Way to Success. Mm-hmm. And yet that's what everybody does. And you wonder why most people don't make money. It's because most people quit everything. It really is. It's like they don't stick around long enough for something good to happen.
Yeah. And go to that moment, because you said a couple times now that there was a moment you made a conscious decision. And, that's like a defining moment in your life and your career. What was it? Where were you? What was the moment? What happened? What were you going through where you kind of paused and made that decision? Take us there.
Yeah, this story is actually in Mark Yarnell's book, Your First Year in Network Marketing. He contacted me. It's the first book I was ever written about in. And he contacted me because he had heard about some success that I was having. And he wanted to hear the story that was like the defining moment for me. Mm-hmm. This was it. I had a group, my first group, that I signed up someone in Arizona who signed up somebody in Peabody, Massachusetts, was a guy named Tom Alderink. I remember the guy's name. And he started building the business, and he built his team up to 40 people in Peabody, Massachusetts. And we didn't have Zooms back then. And we may have done a few conference calls, definitely some 3-way calls, but he had a little group going, and I had no money. I was maxed out on my credit cards, and my job was paying me, like I said, $14,000 a year, but I worked for an airline. So I had past benefits so I could fly for free. And he invited me to come out and do a meeting for him in Peabody, Massachusetts. And the day that I flew was probably one of the worst snowstorms they had in 10 years. And I was living in Arizona. I wasn't even dressed for it. I There was no Uber. I got a rental car actually, and I was going to stay with him at his home because I couldn't afford a hotel. He didn't know that, but I couldn't afford a hotel. So I went out there. Well, it was like one of the worst blizzards ever. And it took me 2.5 hours to get to his home. Would be typically a 20-minute drive if on a nice day. And I got to his home on time. The meeting was at 7:30 and the lights were out in the home. And the snow was blowing like it was a blizzard, and the snow was blowing sideways, and it was cold, and we didn't have cell phones. So I had to make my way to a payphone. I found an outdoor payphone. I put money in it, called him, and his answering machine came on. I called him 3 times. Then I didn't have any more quarters or whatever it was back then, 35 cents. And so I ended up getting a Motel 6 and flying back the next day. I never talked to the guy again. It was the last time he quit. He quit and his whole team quit, not because of the blizzard. There was some other stuff going on, and my whole group of 40 disappeared. And I remember standing on that doorstep thinking to myself, this is it. This is my defining moment, because I quit everything else. And I now have another good reason to quit. And I made a decision. I'm going to go back to work. I had 40 people that all disappeared, completely vaporized, in the first company I'd ever had any kind of a team. And I went on to make millions of dollars with that company.
You know, I love that story because it puts things into the right perspective. It takes effort. It takes time, right? It takes failing, learning, making mistakes. You know, fast forward, Jordan, what would you say are some of the keys that allowed you to not quit? You made the decision in that moment, but I'm sure there were some trying times after it. What has enabled you through all the ups and downs to keep that kind of I will not quit mentality?
Yeah, it's really just it's a personal philosophy that you just have to be committed to, because the truth is, when you're in it, when you're in the mess, it's real easy to quit, especially because you don't have that much into it. You know, you might have 500 into it, 1,000 into it, or a few $100s into it. It's really easy to step back and say, this isn't worth it. It's too hard, or it's never going to work for me. And I always knew that there were people out there that were way better than me. And I knew that if I could ever get in their path, that something good's going to happen for them and for me. So, but my big defining moment, that was like a defining moment in terms of like the sticking with it. But then also, I think when I joined my 12th company, I mastered some of the simple things, like how to give a simple presentation. By the way, and things have changed quite a bit in the world, in the way that we're doing business today. But back then, if you could, you know, network and meet people and build relationships and set appointments and give presentations and follow up and all those things, if you got good at those simple fundamental things and just do those over and over and over again, eventually somebody says yes. Eventually somebody joins your business that really wants this more than you do, and they'll run circles around you. As long as you stay in that daily rhythm of continuing to do the fundamentals over and over again. And the fundamentals, many of them still apply today. They look a little different, but they still apply. There's some massive differences that I think require you to step back from everything and take a bird's eye view and see where the opportunities are, because they've shifted a little bit. So
we're talking about, you know, shifts, and, you know, the only thing constant is change. You've been at this a long time. You've seen a lot of seasons, a lot of shifts in the world. And in the time that we're in right now, like, it is a rapid velocity, right? Things are changing. Pandemic, you know, was like a fast forward, and you have been able to continue to reinvent and continue to adapt and continue to stay on the leading edge of what's working today. So, you know, you've touched on a few of them, but what other shifts would you say, like if you were to compare business today in direct selling, right? Building a team today in direct selling versus yesterday, what else are you seeing now?
That's a lot to unpack. And, you know, you talked about language and the importance of language and how distinctions can really have a profound impact. So let me just share one story, and then I'll get a little bit more real and specific. But if you can imagine, and I wrote a story about this in one of my books. Imagine a hummingbird flying in. You're on a 3rd story in the mountains, and you have the screen door open, and a hummingbird flies into your living room, and that hummingbird flies over to the window, and it's trying to fly out of the window, and you're getting ready to leave. And you know that if you leave, that hummingbird's going to die on the windowsill trying to get out through that window, big picture window, but it sees light that direction. So it's moving in that direction. And 10 feet away, there's a wide open door. And that's all the hummingbird would have to do is shift its attention, and it could effortlessly fly to freedom. So one direction leads to struggle and death. The other direction leads to freedom and is effortless. And so the hummingbird learning to fly better, that represents change. That represents the hummingbirds trying to be better at flying. It gets a hummingbird flying coach, but that's not going to work. No matter, as long as that hummingbird is trying to fly through that window, it's going to die. Transformation represents a shift in focus. That hummingbird shifts its focus, and it could effortlessly fly to freedom. So one of the things I like to do, and sometimes it's a struggle, sometimes it's difficult. One of the things I like to do is I like to say, how can I look at this in a way that I've never looked at it before? And shift and as long as you keep asking the question, eventually your subconscious mind will bring the answer to the surface. Sometimes it happens in your dreams. But as long as you keep proposing the question, like if you're stuck, if you feel like that hummingbird continuing to fly up against that window. So for example, the shift from horse and buggy to automobile was a transformation. That wasn't a change. That wasn't putting better horseshoes on the horses to get them to go faster or to get them to get injured less. It was about a complete transformation, going from automobile to airplane. That is a complete transformation. You're never going to fly by getting better gas mileage, right? So you do the same thing in network marketing. It's like if something that you've been doing over and over again isn't working after a while, rather than quitting, you go, how can I do this in a way that's never been done before? And one big change, Blake, and you've observed it in the old school network marketing companies, before social media and before the ability to share information with each other so readily through communication, today it's virtually impossible to insulate a downline from other ideas. Back then, that's what they would do. It was like taboo to talk to somebody in another organization, in another organization or another company. You weren't allowed to if you were in one of these big companies. It was you could get kicked out of the company if you talked to somebody in another downline about ideas, because that disrupts speaking of disruptors, that disrupts the system that they developed. Today, it's just like open source. It's like everybody has access to everything. So in today's world, it requires the ability to look for different ways to skin the cat, like ways that, for me, it was like, okay, what I'm doing is not growing to the degree that I want it to. So where am I going to go? Like, I'm a networker. I understand the power of networks. I understand, meeting people, developing relationships, looking for opportunities to collaborate, all of that. But where do I need to go? Like, how can I align myself with an industry that's exploding that we can both benefit? So that was the new way of looking at it. So that distinction between transformation and change. Change is incremental. Yes, things are changing, but it's incremental. Transformation. Elon Musk is a transformer. He transforms things. So look at the people today that transform things and ask yourself, how are they doing that? What are they doing What are they doing to transform? One thing that can transform in today's network marketing world, one thing that can transform someone's business is to really accept that technology is an important part of our process for meeting people today and embrace it rather than reject it. The apps that are out there, play around with different apps that'll allow you to connect with new people, and maybe commit to a couple hours a week of learning something new that's a little bit out of your comfort zone.
It's the mindset. I love your distinction between change and transformation. And you're giving us tools, because I agree, like, our brains are question answering machines. If you ask the right question, you eventually get the answer. So just asking yourself, like, how do I look at this different? How do I approach it different? How do I be the hummingbird, right, that finds the crack throughout? I think that's eloquently put. And you've given us some cool strategies, right? The strategy of you're adapting your language to what's normal and mainstream today. You're focusing on people that are excelling online. Are there any other interesting strategies that you're using or teaching with your team or seeing within your community that you feel are really gaining traction today or really working today that you wouldn't mind sharing?
I want to talk a little. Can we talk a little about branding?
Let's do it.
Brands today are building billion-dollar companies in record time. 30-year-olds are becoming billionaires, not in network marketing, but 30-year-olds are becoming billionaires through their brands, not through their work. So, for example, Dr. Dre made $50 million a year on his music, yet his brand built him a $2.6 billion business.
Mm-hmm.
Rihanna, $50 million a year in music sales, but her brand is a multi-billion-dollar brand. And if you look at, I'll tell a story about a guy in Phoenix that I remember many years later. This guy called himself the Pumpkin Man, and he was a realtor. And he was the most well-known realtor in Arizona. And he really didn't do any advertising. And he sold millions and millions of dollars worth of real estate. And that's all he did is during Thanksgiving, he'd be in the Thanksgiving parade and he'd rent this big flatbed and he'd pile it up real high with pumpkins. And he would have a truck pulling that thing slowly through the parade, and he would give everybody a pumpkin. And he wore this orange outfit, and he'd give everybody a pumpkin, and he had his real estate sign on it. But that he became known as the Pumpkin Man. He was the realtor in Phoenix that everyone knew as the Pumpkin Man. So today, brand is super important because it's like, and it doesn't have to be as crazy as that. I mean, what do you want to be known for? Mm-hmm. Like for me, my brand is Beach Money. Beach Money is a brand that people know because it's like it represents something, right? And so what do you like Tony Robbins? What is Tony Robbins known for? He's known for he's kind of known for the firewalk, right? And that's what people talk about. This is a guy, this big guy that does this firewalk. Grant Cardone is known for 10X. You know, everybody's I don't know. Do you know who Rudy Maurer is?
I don't think so.
Rudy Maurer he's from England. He's 30 years old. He's got 300 employees, and everything he wears, all of his stuff, his cars, his bicycles, his dogs wear red. Everything's red, and he branded the red life. So he builds this lifestyle around the red life. Everything's the red. So all of his team wears red. He wears these red fur coats. He's got a couple of red cars, and everything's red. And so, but it's memorable. You go on his social media, everything's red on his social media. And so it's like figuring out like, what do you want to be known for? And does your brand represent what you want to be known for?
Let's say I'm a brand new distributor. I stumble on this conversation. Right. I know I got to make a decision not to quit. Right. First and foremost, give it enough time to work. We're taking some of these nuggets, but let's say I'm inspired to maybe say, okay, well, yeah, I need to build an online brand. But in my head as a brand new person, I'm thinking, wow, but I'm just me. I'm just average. I'm just normal. I've never done this before. Yeah. Like, why does it, all the things, right, that I'm sure people have, that negative self-talk. What guidance would you give to like a brand new distributor that's listening to these conversations? Like, where do I start? Where do I begin if I want to become a brand?
Okay. So, well, I think it's a good idea for you to start thinking, even when you're brand new, start thinking about what you want to be known for, what you want to be remembered for, and then start looking at, because a brand can take 2-3 years to actually come up with. It's not something you just want to do on a whim. It's something you want to really brainstorm on, ask people questions, write down things, make lists, and really start to just sift through it all. But in terms of actually building the business, some of the fundamentals still hold true today. I mean, if I were just getting in today's world, now keep in mind, I've been around for a while, but in today's world, if I were doing any business, not just network marketing, any business, I'm going to need some customers. So where am I going to get my customers? Well, I'm going to start off with the people I know. That's what I'm going to do. If any business, I don't care what it is, I'm going to start asking people, who do you know? So one of the things that I do teach that it's super simple, but it can open up a lot of doors, and it puts you into a position of control, power, in terms of being able to make some progress when you're first getting started. And that is, it's three things: ideas, who do I need to meet, and possible collaboration. Ideas, who do I need to meet, and possible collaboration. So every meeting I have, even if I were just getting started with I would probably make a list of 30 people. Maybe they're people that I know through friends, family, business associate. I'll start off with making a list of 30, and I'm gonna go down three roads. Number one is, I'd love to get together with you and get your ideas on some things. Ideas is the first one. I'd love to get together with you. So Blake, let's say you were on my list. I would message you through social media. I'd probably message you through Messenger, and I'd say, and we know each other, right? Because we have this relationship. We don't know each other well. We haven't spent a lot of time with each other, but you know me and I know you. And I'm going to say, Blake, I would love to get your ideas on some things. I'd love to share some things with you and get some ideas from you, because I know you have a lot of knowledge that I don't have. The second thing is, who do I need to meet? I'm going to ask you, who do you think based on what we've talked about, is there anybody you feel like I need to meet? Now that can lead you to people you don't know. And then you're going to ask Blake, I'm going to ask Blake to make an introduction if he's got somebody, because it's a lot more powerful to make an introduction than trying to do the cold market thing. Cold market network marketing is a grind, and it's hard. It's not something that you just jump into and have success. You can master it. If you're already good at it, great, but most people aren't. Most people are completely uncomfortable with it. But I can ask Blake, someone I know, for introductions. Who do you know that I need to meet based on what we've talked about? So that's the second one. Who do I need to meet? And the third one is collaboration. If you, Blake, tell me I've got 3 people I think you should meet, I say, Blake, since you're making these introductions, would you consider collaborating with me on this? Since you're making the introductions. In other words, would you like to benefit from anything that comes out of my meetings with these other people? At that point, you're going to say yes or no. And half the people say no, and half say, yeah, maybe. And so those are the 3 things that I teach. Is the first, and this is a new world. It's like, this is marketing in today's online business world. And I've met so many people that have so much influence in the online marketing world that are way smarter than me. Like, they know stuff at a level I'm not even anywhere near it. But I can say to them, I would love to tell you what I'm up to and get your ideas. Tell me how you would do it. If you were me, how would you do this? And then I'm learning from them, and I'm taking notes. And I've probably got 100 pages of notes on my computer from meeting with people like this on Zooms. And I'm learning. And I'm noticing I'm starting to think differently too. And then the second thing is, is there anybody you feel like I need to meet? And I'm going to meet those people and get to know them. I'm going to spend a couple of days with them and get to know them. And I'm looking for opportunities to jump into that pond where I know they're swimming. And so that way I can grow with them and learn from them. I learned this, I'm talking a lot, but I learned this when I was younger. If I wanted to learn how to become a better ping pong player, I get better faster if I'm playing with people that are way better than me. So I want to get around people that are way better than me. And what happens when you do that on an ongoing basis, even though it's uncomfortable, is you start to think differently. You start to think like them, and you'll catch yourself, oh my gosh, I would have never thought of that before. But when you hear the conversations and you ask questions and listen, take notes, all those kinds of things, you grow and you change and you become better.
I love it. And just hearing all your stories through the years, through the seasons, right, of your life and through the industry, right, of the last 27 years, there's some principles that keep coming out. You are putting yourself in the environments where you're going to meet the people you want to meet, have the conversations you want to have. I love that you're giving specifics. Here's the language, here's the words. And that's foundational. Those words have worked in this channel for a long time. Now, how we have those conversations today might be in our DM, right? Or might be in our messenger, or might be on a voice note, different than before, but the principles still work. And I love that you're networking your way to all these amazing personalities through the very principles you're teaching everybody that's listening here. So, and it's disruptive. It's what works in the here and now. Let me get your take on this, Jordan, because you talk about influencers, which is a buzzword in everything today. And it sounds like part of your strategy is to attract, right, people like that in your business. You're having success, collabs, as you say. Any tips? Is that something that you would recommend the average, part-time direct seller to focus on, or what's your take on that? Is that an avatar we're looking for, or I'm curious.
Well, it really depends on what you like. For example, let's say you've got health products. Your company is a health products company. I'd start asking myself questions like, where do I need to go to meet the people that, if they loved what I've got, would want to promote it to their people, to their, like, where am I going to go? Like, so, whether it be chiropractic, like if it's chiropractors, then you want to go where the chiropractors are, go to their conferences, be around them, and then ask questions and listen. And then they're going to ask you what you do. Right. So it's a lot of it is just network, like common sense networking and building relationships. There's a book that was written probably in the probably mid 80s, early 80s. There was many books written at that time. I just need to remember the name of this one particular book. For some reason, I just lost it. Oh my gosh.
Okay.
It's called Skill with People.
Okay.
And it's by I believe it's Gibbon or Giblin. Les Gibbon, Skill with People. And it's a very simple book. It's a very short book, but it teaches you the foundational principles of building relationships. And those principles I don't believe will ever change as long as there are human beings interacting with other human beings. It's about building trust. When you try and move forward with somebody who you have not built trust with, you're going to have issues. They're not going to open their doors to you. Like, imagine they're on a planet and you're on a planet. You're from a different planet, and you want them to allow you on their planet. They're not going to allow you on their planet until they know they can trust you with their citizens, the people on their planet. They're not going to let you on their planet. And so what I need to do is the fundamental things, like really being consciously committed to looking for ways to make their life better. Whatever that is. It could be simple things like you see something that they would love and you buy it for them and give it to them. Or you see something that could help them in their business and you recommend they check it out. Mm-hmm. Now, here's another little tip. It's a little off the track of this, but this is something that is super powerful. Two things that are super powerful. Make suggestions and ask for permission to continue. So these are principles that you might read in Skill with People. So, for example, if you're going to make a proposal to somebody, get their permission to do it before you do it. So, would it be okay if I shared something with you that I think you might like?
Great question.
That's permission to continue. Or I would love to propose an idea. Would it be okay if I do that? All right. So you're getting permission to continue. Then they say yes, they're leaning in now. Another thing is suggestions. Like, can I make a suggestion? That's permission to continue and a suggestion. So, Blake, can I make a suggestion? Or, yeah, so you say absolutely.
Absolutely.
So yes, and now I can make a suggestion and you're open to it. Versus making a suggestion and you kind of like, so those are two little tips that you can use that are really powerful in building your network marketing business.
And I hope all of you are listening and writing these things down, because this is human behavior. These words work, and they work everywhere with everyone. It's gold, Jordan. So thanks for those little tips. I can't help but notice you've already given us a reading list, like, we're writing down some amazing books. Leaders are readers. I'm curious, personal growth, right? How much has personal growth and development been core to getting you where you are today? And what is kind of your personal routine, your personal habit, your personal program on how you keep leveling up?
So everywhere you go in my world, you're going to see stacks of books. I'm I know everybody says this, but I'm super ADD or super ADHD or whatever you call it. It was before I had it, before they even had a name for it. I usually can't read more than 3. I get totally bored out of my mind on any book if I read more than 3 pages at a time. So I'm usually reading lots of books all at the same time, and I open it and I'll read 3 or 4 pages. And I'm working on, like, I'll work through 5 or 6 books all at the same time, and it may take me a long time to get through all of them, but I do. And I found an app that I really love, and it's really great for people that have ADD. It's called Headway.
Mm-hmm.
And it's have you heard of Headway?
Continue. I think I know where you're going with it.
Headway does 10-minute books. It's book summaries, 10 minutes.
Yep.
And it's very inexpensive. And I use that. You can read a book a day that way. And it gives you the concepts and the ideas. And there's a lot of real relevant stuff in there. So I like that. My daily routine every single day when I wake up, the first thing I do, I don't know if you're familiar with Wim Hof breathing.
Mm-hmm. I did my Wim Hof this morning, my cold plunge this morning, actually.
See, there you go. So I do my Wim Hof breathing every morning. It usually takes me 8 to 10 minutes. Mm-hmm. It's guided on my app. I do that. I feel that makes me feel great. I did an hour and a half hot yoga this morning. So I either lift weights or I do hot yoga. I usually don't book anything before 11. But from the time I wake up till 11, it's just me time. It's personal time. I'm not married. I'm single, no kids. And so this is the way I do it. If you've got kids, you've got to work that all into it as well. But I'll usually do a little bit of reading. I drink coffee. And then my first appointment's at 11. I usually do anywhere from 3 to 10 appointments a day. I'm usually done by early evening. And my appointments usually last 30 minutes to an hour, sometimes 15 minutes, depending on what it is. And I'm doing the things that we're talking about. Like I'm asking those questions. I'm also, with my business, I'm giving overviews. And then I'm asking, how would you do this? If it were your business, what would you do? Who do I need to meet? I'm training people. That's the kind of stuff. Most of it's on Zoom.
Well, and I appreciate you just being so transparent on the activity model you just shared, because, branding on social media can give us one perception, right? And you've been doing this for 27 years. You're the number one in your company. And you just told all of us that you are lining up your calendar every single day on the 15 or 30 minute, right? For 3 to 10 hours today as the number one person in your company. Can you just go deeper on that?
Yeah.
Like what it really takes, the consistency level it really takes, the work that it really takes if you want to get to the level that you're at, just so everybody hears the truth.
Yeah. So I've signed up in my current company. I've signed up 600 people personally in 18 years. And if you figure that out, it comes out to about 3 per month. And 3 per month is doable for anyone. 3 affiliates per month, 3 distributors per month. Mm-hmm. But I do approximately 1 presentation a day on average. So I've done somewhere in the range of 6,000 presentations over the course of 18 years. And from those 6,000, I've signed up about 600. So I figured it out. It's about 1 out of 9. So I have 8 people that tell me no, or don't tell me anything and don't do anything out of every 9 that I show it to. But out of the 9, 1 says yes and pulls the trigger. So from those 600, I probably have 7 of the 600 that I've brought in as distributors. I have probably 7 that are responsible for 95% of my organization of 600,000 affiliates and over 1 million customers. 7 have built the organizations. And I think, Blake, you could talk to anybody that has built a large organization in network marketing, and they will tell you that 95% of their income comes from anywhere from 2 to 10 people, and they've signed up hundreds. Mm-hmm. And so I'm very consistent. Consistency is one of my strong suits. Like, even when I get knocked down, even when I have a tough week, even when I have a tough month, I'm still doing the work, and I don't feel like I'm working very hard giving 1 presentation a day. I'm not. It's like there's no job out there that you could get away with giving 1 presentation a day and still keep your job. But yet you do 6,000 presentations, you're probably going to sign up about 500 or 600 people. And out of those 500 or 600 people, you're going to find a few that will build organizations of tens of thousands.
I mean, it's the math. I love it because, we can have conversations to make us better, right? When we're having the presentations or engaging with the prospects. We can use the new app, right? When we're creating our content, we can find the groups, we can use the language, we can reach out to the influencers, we can do all these things. And I will say, it matters. It makes you better. It makes your ratio better. But at the end of the day, it all boils down to exactly what you just said. It comes down to running the numbers, doing the work consistently over a long enough period of time. And if you do the work consistently long enough, the math just works. The math just works. So I appreciate you just being so transparent and breaking that down for us. I think that was huge.
There's one topic we haven't talked about that I think is really important, and
let's do it.
Has to do with dreams. I'm, like everybody when they're young has big dreams. And then at some point, usually 7, 8 years old, after your parents start saying things to you, your friends, you start giving up on your dreams. And most people, what they do is they shrink their income down to meet their dreams, and instead of shrink their dreams down to meet their income instead of expanding their income to meet their dreams. I've always been a dreamer, so I'm attracted to that. I'm attracted to that, like all my whole life. I figured out a formula that is so foolproof that I've applied hundreds of times to achieve things that were important to me in my life. Everybody's dreams are different. You're not expected to love my dreams, but these are my dreams and you got yours, but the formula works for everyone. And I'm sitting up here on the 37th floor of the Waldorf on the Strip in Las Vegas. I've had this place for 10 years. I'm looking south on the Strip. I can see the Raiders Stadium right here. I can see New York, the Park MGM, the Mandalay Bay, the Luxor, and the airport. So I'm looking south down the Strip from my condo here on the 37th floor. And I was up here one day about 7, 8 years ago watching the helicopters giving the tours around the Strip. And I thought, wouldn't it be cool to be a helicopter pilot? And when my friends came to Vegas, I could say, let's jump in the helicopter. I'll give you a view of Las Vegas from the sky. And you got to understand, I grew up in an environment, my dad made $28,000 a year at his peak. And I grew up in an environment where just even being around a helicopter was virtually never going to happen. And I just decided I wanted to do this. It was a dream that I had. So I went onto my computer and I put in helicopter training in Las Vegas, and I found a place and I called and I went down there and I booked a discovery flight. And then I said, I want to do this. How much is it going to cost? And they told me, and then they gave me a box with a whole bunch of books. And then I started down the path, and I ran into so many times, hundreds of times, 100 times, where I wanted to quit because things were hard, really hard, and way out of my comfort zone. Scary shit, scary, right? But I kept going back. Here's the formula. First thing is you got to have an idea of what you want. Like, even if you don't believe it's possible, even if you have doubt, that's the first thing, is you got to write down what it is. Write down your dream. The second thing is you got to schedule it. Like, schedule the first step. Even if you don't have the money, schedule the first step of whatever that is. If it means, like, if you want to take a trip to the Virgin Islands, if it means contacting a travel agent and saying, can you get me information? I want to go to the Virgin Islands. What does that look like? How much is it going to cost me? What are my options as far as where to stay? What should I see when I'm there? Take the first step and put it on your calendar. The first step, put it on your calendar. The third thing is you want to trust the process. There's people that have done it before you. And then the last and the most important, and this is where most people fail, is see the job through. Don't quit until you have your dream. So there's lots of dreams that took me literally 10, 15 years to achieve, but many years ago in a journal, I wrote it down as a dream. Like, every year I write down my dreams. Like, what do I want my life to look like 2 years, 5 years from now? Dream boards are great, all that kind of stuff. But if you follow that formula, first thing is you got the dream. Most people never schedule anything. Schedule the first step right now. Schedule it right now. What's the first step to getting closer to the dream? Put that on your calendar. You might even put the second and the third step on your calendar. Put it in the calendar. Third, you might even put the date that you're going to the Virgin Islands, or the date you're taking your family to Disneyland, or the date that you're going to go apply for something, right? So third thing is trust the process, and fourth is see the job through. Don't quit until it's done.
Jordan, this has been awesome. I want to collect your closing thoughts and anything else on your mind or your heart. But before we do that, is it okay if we do just like a rapid fire round? Just one thing I've done with every guest so far.
Yeah.
So there's no right or wrong answer to this. This is just first thing that comes to your mind. It's just kind of rapid fire. But like, I'm a big believer in perspective shifts, right? And I can tell in your language, you've had some shifts in perspective. Like you shift your mindset, it can change everything. So my first question is for you, what's one of the biggest just belief shifts, perspective shifts? You went from telling yourself one story to telling yourself something different, and that shift made all the difference. What's one thing that comes to mind?
Look in a different direction.
I love that. Same question for brand new distributor. I just got started today. I'm excited about my company, my product, my service. What's one shift you would say a brand new distributor needs to have if they want to maximize their success?
Always no, who's next? Who's next?
I love that. And then the last one's kind of like a dream question, a visionary question. And this is just looking at, the power of DSN and what that community allows us to reach is we have the potential here to reach the channel. And you think about the channel of direct selling, network marketing, affiliate marketing, whatever term we want to call what it is that we do, and all the communities, all the people, all the distributors, promoters, affiliates, every term we give ourselves, like across the world, that's a powerful community. Like that's might be the most powerful community in any channel in the world.
Sure.
So my question for you is, if you could, have the superpower, you could snap your finger right now and give every single distributor and every single company across the world in this channel one belief shift, what shift would you give them?
The shift that I would give them would be that there are people out there that are better than you that want to do what you're doing. And there's no reason why you can't capture their attention. There's just no reason why. They're looking for there are people out there that are looking for what you're doing that are way better than you and way better than me. And they're out there and they're looking for you. So you need to bring that to them. I guess that's what I would say, I guess.
I love it. No, I think it's great. Well, we've covered a lot today. I mean, everything from mindset and the decision, hopefully we're all making not to quit, right? To see this through, to some tactics and skills, some language and scripts, some new apps, some books, right? We got to go buy, to dreaming and a formula on how to do so. Any closing thoughts, anything else on your mind, your heart you want to give before we round out our conversation?
I would just say, thank you, Blake. The most rewarding part of this business, the money is great, and living a lifestyle that aligns with your purpose in life is really important, but it really truly is the deep, rich relationships that you build along the journey, because, you can't take any of this stuff with you. It's the experiences that you have with people along the journey that are really, that really bring the richness of what we do. And so just always remember that. It's like when you find yourself getting caught up in the chaos of actually doing work, remember why you're doing it. And that's to create beautiful experiences for yourself and your family and your friends. And just stay aligned with that, because that's what you're going to remember. And that's what you're going to tell stories about.
I mean, that's what life's about. That's what all this is about. And you can do that in this channel. And I know today's conversation can help move you in that direction. For everybody that spent some time with us, thank you. I know your time is the most valuable thing we have. I know this conversation delivered something to move you forward. Listen to it, re-listen to it. Drop by the podcast, subscribe if you haven't, leave a rating and review on this episode. Jordan's taking time away from his team, right? His life. The only reason we're doing this is to add value to you. And the only reason or way we know is if you let us know. So drop by, leave a rating and review. And I'm going to use my Jordan Adler new scripting skills here. Who do you know that needs to hear this message right now? Because I know there's someone that came to your mind that needs this message just as much as you do. And now you have the ability to share that. Help us get the message out and share that. So thank you for your time. Jordan, thank you, brother. I appreciate everything and your time today. Amazing conversation.
Thanks. Bye, everybody.